Again, and Dave, I wanted to start with what you were just talking about, the three components to a proposition in California. Most of them do not pass anyway.
Yeah, if you look at kind of the history of California ballot measures, only about 1 in 3 passes. So the smart money is on the no side, the opponent side. We don't see this so much in the June ballot measures, but as we move, if you will, to November, that's an important component. So smart money on the opponent side. Also, in addition, there's another component here, and that is the gun behind the door, what potentially could get to the ballot. So if you're looking at things that could alter property taxes, or could alter sales taxes or anything going on in terms of those types of things in California. It's the threat of going to the ballot. And also, ballot measures are big money. And that big money gets voters' attention, and that raises turnout.
Yep, okay. Well, let's start with the propositions that we're facing this summer. Proposition 68, with our recent drought, water conservation is at the top of everyone's minds. What do you think the chances are on this one?
Well, I'll start with this. And speaking of money, this is one of the few ballot measures that has actually raised in excess of $1 million. The opposition on this to date has raised nothing. This is more than just about water conservation. It's also about, for 68 we're talking about, it's also about improving spending on parks. It is also for the environment, and it's I believe there's a general obligation bond for water as well in this. So I think that this is likely to pass on the face of it, because people who don't want to get into the weeds on this will see parks or something like that and think it's a good idea. Now, one quick thing on this. This particular measure is being heavily promoted by Dianne Feinstein's opponent in the Senate race, the Senate President Kevin DeLeon. And I'm sure he will be using this to also advance his candidacy as well. So as this gains traction, it might be interesting to look and see if this helps his chances in a Senate challenge with a person, like I said in the last segment, who's not likely to lose.
Let's move on to Prop 69, because we're running out of time here. So motor vehicle taxes and fees must go toward transportation. This is something that everyone complains about. I voted for this tax to do this specific job, but then the money gets diverted elsewhere. What do you think the chances are of this one going through?
Well, it's a novel concept that what you vote for actually happens.
Right.
But, you know, I think Californians are looking for certainty in propositions. And that's why, to Dave's point earlier, things that deal with taxation and other things tend to be voted down. And this is why you see this huge number of propositions coming forward on the statewide November ballot, which is the people's option, as opposed to these, which comes from the legislature. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I think the more certainty that's involved in one of these propositions, the better it is. But they always hang some terms on there that really catch the people's attention.
So these legislatively referred measures often don't get any opponent dollars spent against them, and that actually helps them. And as candidates use them to kind of buoy up turnout, that's something, as Joe pointed to kind of pay attention. But as we then move to the November ballot, it's those that come on popular petition that get these kind of galactic battles that go on, these very Super Bowl type spending wars, and that's often spent on television. We won't see as much of that in June. We'll see a lot of that in November.
Okay, Prop 70, the creates gas reduction reserve fund. Basically, this is a cap and trade program to try to reduce greenhouse gases. California already has something like this in place, so what's different about this?
Well, what you'll see with this one is this puts into place more of that specificity that Brian was talking about, and California voters generally go for things like this. Democrats will be churned out for something like this. These first 3 ballot measures are likely to pass. It's the last one, Prop 71, that changes to the ballot measure process, where voters like to vote no. They like to be asked to dance, and then they like to vote no. That's the type of thing that we actually see where voters are more resistant to political reform changes.
Let me add one point to that. I agree with what David said. There is a part of this that may be opposed, ironically, by environmentalist groups, because what this amendment proposes to do is create a one-time 2/3 vote of both legislatures in order to pass a spending plan for revenue from the state's cap and trade program. And so this is now supported by the California Chamber of Commerce, which ordinarily would be a red flag, but actually the Chamber of Commerce has come around on cap and trade in California more recently because the governor has thrown them some benefits that they liked. And this is opposed, ironically right now, by the Coalition for Free Air, because they think that 2/3 requirement in both houses may mean that they won't get the votes. And if that's the case, they're worried that the spending won't be there.
Okay.
And this might be a bad analogy, but usually only 1 or 2 ballot measures suck up all of the oxygen. This will be one that will certainly receive all of that play.
That's a good analogy. I like that one. All right.